your job as a coach isn't to show how good you are, it's to show how good they are.
Don't just talk it, walk it.
You're singing this, aren't you?
Don't
My head, yeah.
talk it, walk it. Don't just talk it, walk it.
How many jokes you got lined up for today?
None.
None.
It's a serious podcast.
Serious podcast. Well, we got Gar Nicholas here, and we got the legend Craig Warlow. How you doing, mate?
Good all, very good.
Mate, I seen you, I'd like to say 3 months ago, 2-3 months ago. I did a talk at the college, and it was a nice reminiscent time to see where you all are doing and what you're doing. And I was I remember when I would take it all the way back to the first time I went to the college. Obviously, I got to know Gar, but I was very starstruck when I met you, because when I was younger, I used to see you playing for Bridgend Ravens with your headgear on and kicking goals, putting your body on the line, and had some mad skill sets about you. And for me, mate, it was when I went to college, even though I didn't really train much with the college, I was very nervous around you because of the player that you were.
Talking. I like this.
And I don't want to, this is just me complimenting you, but I genuinely mean it, because I actually said this recently in the speech when I was there. I said, guys, you've got like a legend of, in particular, South Wales there. Like, take him like a sponge and take as much knowledge
I was
off
never
you.
big in North Wales.
So,
What's it like up Craig Warlow?
his arse. He's just jealous he's not getting it.
Is it a lonely place?
Interestingly, I did say to you as well that I look back at one of the programmes and there was a photo from the Brewery Field end of the crowd up on the right-hand side under the sort of boxes.
Yeah.
And I started looking at the picture and I was thinking, hang about, that's Tom Aberfield, that's Matthew Morgan.
Wow.
And they were like, I don't know, maybe 9-10-year-olds on the side of the field just cheering on Bridgend.
Yeah.
And obviously they were students at the college years gone by. And we laughed about that because you don't realise sometimes who you're meeting. Another quick story, Jamie Murphy tells me that when we were with Bridgend, we were training down in Tondy. We were quite nomadic at that time. And Jamie was one of the kids on the field with the golf club.
Wow.
And I was practicing my kick-in after the session, and I went over to him and I said, give me a go at your golf club. I can't remember this, but he tells me this.
Yeah.
And he's also got a photo of me giving him a prize. Now, if you can imagine Jamie, he looks older than me now, doesn't he?
He's got a strong hairline. I think he's had a tattoo, doesn't he, old Jake?
But he's got a photo of me giving him a prize in a presentation night, so it's lovely that full circle, you know.
Full circle. And let's not forget about the guy. I was going to roll the red carpet out for him today. He's been on the party bus, I think, since winning the cup in the Principality. How has that been, Gar?
I just take it in my stride.
Take it in your stride.
No, I was very,
Just
very
bring that over
excited.
to you. Very, very excited.
Very, very excited. A great day out. Thoroughly enjoyed it, as did all the players.
I actually was in the stadium watching it, and it was nice to see. I was in the Puthcore side, but to be fair, mate, we've spoke about this. You got some players in that team. The hooker I really liked,
Very good.
and your winger. But you told me that he's got it all, but he doesn't want it all.
He has what he wants. He just does what he wants. He's very difficult to manage. But you just have to, with something like that, he's too good a player to leave out. Yeah. I got a bone to pick with him as well.
With who?
With you.
Here we go.
I know what it is.
Waffler.
The Waffler. Nipper told me to say it, mate, so I had to say it.
Okay.
To be fair, boys, you guys are still coaching today, as you know, Llanara, you're with Kevin Cribble. You're a Kevin Cribble boy?
Well, North Kennelly. But I've emigrated up to Kenfigil now, so Kevin's a local side, and it's just full of nice people, and I really enjoy my time there.
What keeps you guys going as coaches? Obviously, players at one stage, now coaches. What is it that keeps you ticking on? Guy, you want to go first?
Interaction with players. There's the challenge as well.
Yeah.
And it's been part of my life. Everything, all my friends, everything I've done has all come through rugby. It's a difficult thing to give up. I'm sitting here now because of rugby. I know you because of rugby. I know you because of rugby. it's been all the way through my life, you know, since I was very young.
That's fair play. Rugby is an amazing thing. It takes you around the world, doesn't it? As you both know. But what about yourself, Craig?
I think I'm very similar to Gareth in that respect. I think we both come from similar backgrounds, and probably rugby is the vehicle that allows you to become someone. And I don't want to sound sort of, sort of small-minded, but it does give you that confidence to be someone. You can help someone, that feeling of achievement.
Yeah.
And that success can be different for different levels. And I think your job as a coach isn't to show how good you are, it's to show how good they are.
Yeah.
And I think you get massive amounts of pleasure from just seeing someone do something really well. And I think that Mickey taking as well of showing you love someone by taking the Mickey.
Yeah.
And I think we're all boys at heart, and that is really, really something you cherish as a player, and something I missed when I stopped playing. And within 6 weeks of shopping with my wife on the weekend, I needed that rise and fall in my week, and I think that's what coaching provides me. I still get nervous Saturday morning thinking, we're travelling away to wherever, and the boy's going to be good today, and I just like that interaction.
If you put part of yourself into a product, you will get nervous, won't you? You want to,
Go on.
you want to do well, you want the players to do well. That's in us playing on the stadium, and winning his first call in the whole scheme of world rugby is minuscule.
Yeah.
But in my world, it was huge.
Yeah.
And that's it's all relative, isn't it?
I think the shared experience is important as well, and that feeling, that magic in that circle post game, I'm sure, and then walking back into the club. I still remember that as a player, whether it's Canelli Youth winning a semi-final against Tonmawr, it's as special then as it is winning a cup final in the Millennium Stadium, Principality Stadium. It is that feeling of a shared experience that connects us as human beings.
Yeah.
And if you finish that and you've had it, you want it again.
That's so true. I want to ask you something about that. Then we'll talk as coaches, as you two as coaches for now with players. Sometimes you can get to a field, you get in the changing rooms, and you just know sometimes the boys are not on today. That feeling, the boys are on or they're not on today. What is that? How does that? How do you know? Obviously you can tell the distraction, they're mucking around maybe, or some people do need that. But how do you know when they're not on, and how do you get them out on?
I'm going to step in here because I'm going to talk about my learning under Gareth, and I think we've obviously had chats about what we think works and what perhaps doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing I've picked up from Gareth is that emotional connection and trying to create that hook that allows you to carry the team into an emotional space that will allow them then to perform to the best of or better than if you hadn't intervened. And I think you can do all the prep, which is great, but it's that last sort of 2 inches they talk about where you implement. Rugby's a contact sport. You can't get away from being totally committed. And I think if you realise, sense, and have an interest in people, and I think that's where Gareth is taught me is, unless you have an interest in people, how can you really know their behaviours are different? And I think picking up on that then and trying to accentuate what you are capable of rather than telling them what you're not doing. It was a real pet hate of mine of, come on boys, we're not there. The warm-up's been shit, this has been shit.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to perform then when you've been told that it's not there? So how can you plug into something that says we are capable of this, and you're accentuating the positive, and I think that emotional hook is key for that.
So, for instance, then, as I've gone back to playing locally, when I notice, right, we'll train on a Tuesday. You guys might do it as well. You train on a Tuesday and you reflect on the weekend. What's the first thing you talk about when you reflect on the weekend? Is it the things we need to do, what we were not good at, or do you go what we did really well?
What we did really well.
Yeah, what we did well. Playing musical chairs, yeah. I can grab this now. So I just said then, Gar, regarding when Tuesday comes or whenever training is and you reflect on the game, what is it, for instance, that you do? Is it you look on the, right, boys, we were shit in the ruck, boys, our hands were poor, or do you try and find the positives first?
It's very easy for anybody to find fault.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is to get players on board.
Mm.
So it's the sandwich technique or the bullshit sandwich technique.
Yeah.
Give them something good.
Mm.
Give them something to improve on. And then finish with something good.
Mm.
It's much harder to look at, to see good things. Because it's easy to see bad things.
Yeah.
It's easy to have knowledge in hindsight.
Mm.
But it's all about particular level that I'm involved in now, and Craig is involved in. It's important they enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
To be told you're rubbish is not conducive to good performance.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a problem in Bridgend College when we worked together, because neither of us are shouters. And at times you do need a shouter, but I don't do it.
So how do you do that then? If two of you are not shouters, then how do you do it?
Sometimes you have to act. I'll give you a secret now, but my players know it already. I throw my hat and I throw my notebook. For example, when the first year I took over at Dunharron, half of the season they needed a rocket. So I went on at half time, threw my hat on the floor, threw my pen on the floor, threw my book on the floor, and I had a go with them. At half time we still lost. And then next week they needed a rocket again, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do the same act. So I walked in, cool as a cucumber, put my big palaver, put my stuff in the bin. I said, you're not listening to me, waste of time me being here. You don't need a coach, you just need somebody to drive the bus. And they said, come on, Gar, give us some information, we will act on it, we're just struggling at the moment. Tell us what we need to do. I said, okay, first thing there's three things you're going to do. First thing is you've got to go forward. Second thing, you've got to make these up. Second thing you do, you have to tackle them behind the gain line. Better line spin. The third thing, I had to win the bin and get my notepad out. That ruined the team. Totally lost again. There we are.
How was your talk for the final? What was your pre-match talk there?
Talked about this morning, didn't we?
He told me about it, but I was very intrigued when he told me how he did it.
I did a little bit of research. I thought which is the best pre-match team talk I've heard, and it's that 1 inches off
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino is a fantastic it's half-time team talk. But the whole thing about it was he made himself appear vulnerable. And he gave something of himself. He said he'd pissed away all his money. He'd pushed away everybody, whoever loved him. And as I struck a chord, so, I just gave him a piece of myself. So everyone thinks I'm a little bit arrogant and a very confident person. I'm not. I'm a very nervous person. You'd back that up. I'm a nervous person. So I told them that I'm a nervous person and I'm always frightened. I'll wake up one day and people will realise I'm a fraud. And I have no credibility as a coach. I said, and you were the boys who give me credibility. You've got us here, and you've given me some credibility, and I thank you for that. And wasn't a dry eye in the house.
So fair play. That's a pretty decent speech to say to someone. You get it doesn't take much in those finals to fire boys up, mind, does it? Really?
No.
Some people actually are too amped up for finals. Have you ever experienced that, Craig?
I remember playing in the cup final. It was the time where Cardiff Arms Park was demolished and the internationals were played in Wembley, and they played the cup final in Bristol and Ashton Gate. So we got there early, and we did like a lap of Ashton Gate. I don't know, it's a 25,000 seater stadium, and a good friend of mine, Matthew Wintle, who's always been someone I've looked up to. I went to school with Matthew, he's a few years older than me. Always had a few, words of encouragement. And as we were walking around, he said, it's important now you don't get consumed by the day. Just relax and enjoy the day. It's a game of rugby, and I think that is important, because at the end of the day, it's a rugby ball. It's the same dimensions, and you do sort of overcook it in your mind.
Definitely.
So it's important just to stay relaxed. As soon as the game kicks off, you're fine. But it's that managing that pre-game tension is key, isn't it?
Definitely.
I went the other way in the final. People were all saying it's just it's the same size pitch, it's the same grass, it's the same size ball. But it ain't just another ball. It ain't just another pitch. It's all. This is the Principality Stadium. You need to ramp yourself up for it, and who knows? It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. But,
What was the final score in that game against Puthcombe?
44-3.
At what stage in that game did you know you had it?
Last 10 minutes.
Come on.
I'm a nervous character, and I had visions of making the biggest comeback ever, and so it was just something that that's just the way I am. I'm not. I think I would also have been disrespectful. Around high five and everybody,
Yeah.
with a quarter of an hour left on the pitch. 'Cause I don't like that. No, I don't. I've got empathy for the opposition coaches as well, and they're doing a good job. They've got local boys,
Yeah.
a young team. They're doing everything the right way. And I think we're doing the same. I think you are, Craig, up there. You've got local boys.
Yeah, Kevin's a great club. It's got real, community, family values. When you walk into the club, it's just got a nice feel to it. But they're trying hard now to implement the junior section, which will hopefully give them sustainable players, because it's a ribbon village with Tondi one side, Kenfigill the other side. Any aspirational player has that option, and I understand that, because if you are a Division 1 or a Championship player, you should be playing in that level. But it's Kevin's job to provide the best facilities, the best welcome, the best experience it can, and hopefully that leads to boys being more ambitious, committing a bit more, and who knows where that'll take us.
That's it. That's great. It's good. Like Gar mentioned this on the last time we did the podcast about how it is important to bring people from the local area. How buying into the locals actually brings more people, bums on seats, and people buying into the towns doing well again. Is that something that has always been drummed into you, or is it just something you know?
Do you know, I'm going to give the Welsh Rugby Union a big pat on the back here, because I think of all the things they've done well or badly, and that's up for discussion, the one thing that has been a real success is the tiered cup final. And communities really come together and embrace the experience. And I was up there that day as well. And it is a fantastic experience playing in arguably the best stadium in the world. 10 buses, last one out, turn the light off kind of thing. And it's not just the 90 minutes or the 80 minutes, it is the lead up, the excitement in the community, and then the post-game shindig. And I think all that is how powerful is sport, you know, the impact it can have not just on the individual but on the community. I think that's something that those tiered competitions do.
This go on.
After we left the stadium, we went back to Llanharan. We walked in, and there were 500 people in the hall in Llanharan, and they all started singing "Sweet Caroline," which is the song we sing in the change room afterwards. And I couldn't get. They got all the boys on stage. I couldn't get to the stage. There was an 80-year-old bloke kissing me on the cheek. It was it was really good for the self-efficacy of the whole of Llanharan, I think.
It's great to hear. I love hearing when the whole community buys in again and brings in, you know, and just kind of gives you that bit of nostalgia. Kind of see where you guys started from as kids and the reason that, you know, the why. Let's say the why behind it and why you do everything you do is from at one stage you was that little kid playing juniors for that local team, and you're looking up to the first team, going, one day I want to play for them. Do you know? And you know, the more you think about that, and then you have the fans on the sideline, you have them cheering them on, and I think that just enthusiasm leads into other areas. Then, you know, the reason why we're all sitting here today, like you just said, boys, is from those days, you know, bringing it back. But I actually want to lead this into kind of how you guys started at the college. Did you know each other before you started going there?
No, not really.
What was that first conversation like?
He was Craig was very complimentary when Bridgend won to go into Europe, didn't you? You probably don't remember.
No, I do remember. We had to win to qualify for the Heineken Cup, which is obviously the Champions Cup now. And we had to go to Caerphilly, which was never an easy place to win. And Gar was at the helm at the time. It was a to and fro match, and we won. We qualified for Europe, so obviously you're in good spirits. And I seem to remember doing an interview after the game, and I just said, "Look, we got what we expected from Caerphilly, well coached." Yeah. You know, I think Alfie Mocoletto broke my nose that day with his
arm guard.
Yeah, arm guard. Yeah, obviously good memories, but you know, his reputation has always been of someone who is diligent, hardworking, respectful, empathy, and we just had a sort of connection post that. And I remember being in the Dragons, seeing Gareth from time to time, and we'd exchange, you know, pleasantries and say, how are you doing, kind of thing. And then when my career ended, a mutual friend of ours, Mike Jones, sort of put you on to me. And
I was in Bridgend College on my own, and Mike Jones came up and said, "You need a backs coach." I said, "I'm desperate for a backs coach." Said, Craig Warner's looking for a start, and I mentioned him to Paul Adams, and you were straight in, weren't you? This is the strange thing that happened, and this is testament to what a good bloke that guy is sitting opposite. He came in. He never coached before, ever. I'd coached Wales in the 19s, Caerphilly, Tondy, a bit with Newport, Abervale. Within 2 years, he's a better coach than I was. You could sit down and watch him here and go, "There's a problem." I go, "Oh yeah, I noticed that. This is what we got to do to fix it." I know how to fix it. But I know he was a better coach than me, and he knew his ability to see things was far better. I mean, he never tried to prove it. Because Bridgend College is my baby. He'd stand half a step behind me, and let me get on it. And there's not many people who will do that.
So much humility in that, right?
That wasn't what I wanted to happen, but every time I put myself forward, he elbowed me in the ribs.
He's a difficult bloke to wrestle off the podium. He's not as strong as he looks.
Oh, great stuff. So, as you're saying then, though, like having that, you know, it's kind of like without words, you're having this connection without even saying it. Like you're saying, you know, you took that one step back and you always respected him, and even though you may have felt, well, Gar's words anyway, he always felt like, you could see the root of a problem beforehand. But I think some people, identifying as well, maybe a head coach might be for the players, and then you've got a forwards coach and a backs coach who are extremely gifted in other areas, the finer detail stuff. And I think, would you say you're a natural, obviously you're a head coach over Kevin, but I mean, did you
Actually, I'm not head coach of Kevin, no.
Oh, sorry, I take it back.
Steve Gillard is.
Steve Gillard.
Like Gilly.
But is that something you like being in the assistant role?
I'm not bothered either way, really.
Yeah.
I'll obviously, I've got a passion for a certain way of playing rugby, and I feel strongly about something, but I'll give my opinion, and if somebody can give a counter-argument as to why we do it this way, I'm happy to listen.
Yeah.
I don't know everything, obviously. And with Gareth, I was quite keen. I'm interested in people. I like observing people. I'm happy just to sit there and drink a coffee and watch the world go by. And I was observing Gareth for the first year, particularly the way he dealt with people, the way he dealt with the situation, the way he communicated, being dropped. I noticed little things like half-time, or when he made a substitution, he'd never say, "You're coming off." He'd say, "Come and have a break." Now, it's only a play on words, but what he's doing there to the player is, you've given a shift, stand down, have a break. Someone else can take over your workload. When you can so easily go, off you come.
Yeah.
And there's lots of little instances like that where you observe, you pick up little bits. And I always thought as well that you see these skills in training. Everyone's got it, haven't they? Even Kevin, right? Where you're offloading, pass before contact, through the legs, over the top in training. Jouet, they call it, don't they? Yeah. And then it comes to the game and we become restricted. Why can't we harness that skill level and that ability to do the good in the game?
Yeah.
And Gareth would do the sequential stuff, the line-outs, and I just encourage the boys just to play. It wasn't rocket science. We had really good players, didn't we, who could do those things.
So how do you instill that then? Because I hear it so much. We've spoke about it. I've spoke to Gav, spoke to many people about it, where some people do their best work on the training field but not on the field because the anxiety, the fear, the failure, am I going to get dropped, kicks in. And we've even spoke about this when I did the speech in comparing Australia, how they play with so much confidence and everything. But I think we are our biggest critics. I'm answering the question, but I think we are our biggest critics, and that's the fear of holding us back, of we're waiting for someone to fail, and we're like, see you made that mistake over there. I don't know, what's your thoughts?
I agree with that, and I think we earn our corn as coaches in how we react to something that happens that we didn't want to happen. So I've been in the changing room, both as a player and as a coach, and the pre-match messages are always, let's play. If it's on, let's play. And then it comes to the game, it was on. Say if we're going to play from out 22, it's on because the back three naturally may be in situ for the kick, and it doesn't work. And the coach is shouting, "What are we doing playing?" Well, you said if it's on, we play.
Yeah.
The issue isn't was it a wrong decision. The issue is, was the pass right? Were we deep enough? Did we commit the defender? So it isn't just about highlighting, like Alice said. It's easy to highlight that it didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can we do next time to make it work? Yeah. And I think that's where we have to be a little bit more pointed in the feedback we give.
How do you then, for instance, then, Craig, if we go back to your career from Llanelli to Bridgend, obviously I watched you a lot of Bridgend and the Dragons. How did you get that into your game then? Because we all have that little noise in our head telling us, you make one mistake, you're like, don't do it. How did you break that mold?
I went to Llanelli as a kid. Obviously I had talent. I definitely wasn't prepared mentally for the pressure, the strain, and it was a little bit arduous because I put myself under so much pressure as well. And when I left Llanelli after 4 seasons, great club. If you're playing well at outside half at Llanelli, I can honestly say there's not a better position in world rugby. But I left there, I went to Bridgend, and the second game we played in my first season in Bridgend was Llanelli at home. And we played Cross Keys first game. We beaten Cross Keys, so we played Llanelli at home, TV cameras there. I was nervous. And one of the best bit of coaching I've ever had as a player was from Dennis John. And he called me in during the week, and he put this is how old it is, put a video recorder into the video, press play, and he showed me 3 or 4 minutes of me whizzing out passes, sidestepping, drop goals. Didn't say a word. When the video finished, he said, "See, you can do it. See you Saturday." And I walked out of there 10 feet tall, and I had an absolute nightmare on the Saturday. No, I played really well on the Saturday. It was almost a dream come true. How much effect Dennis had on me, I can't say for sure, but I'm talking about it now 20 years later, 25 years later. And again, that comes back to the hook, the emotion, the human connection. How do we release that skill and that talent in our players?
Well, I think that's why you talk so highly about Gar, because he, and like yourself, you connect with the player on an emotional level, not just as a skill set. You're actually tapping into them as a person more. Is that right?
This question was answered really right at the start. What do you give them good? Something they've done well first, or something they've done poorly? If you have to build up a relationship with the players, something that they're not scared to try things.
Yeah.
I mean, what we say, what I try and tell the players in Llanharan, if you see something that's on, you have my full permission just to go for it. If you drop it, and then you run and score and try, that's my fault. You know, I'm giving you the okay to try that. It seems to I've tried that everywhere. I did it when we were in Bridgend College. And you know, if you can't expect players to perform in the opposition 22, if they're not performing their own 22.
That's true.
So if there's space, the instinct should be to attack it.
So when, okay, then I hear so many people say you've got to earn the right to go wide. What's your philosophy on that?
I don't know what that means, really.
But
I genuinely don't know what that means. Rugby is a game of front football, okay? Now, you can play through players, through the line, or you can play round the line. And I remember sitting in on a conference where Graham Henry was the keynote speaker, and his speech was on attack. So I'm there now with my pen and paper thinking, he won the World Cup the year before. This is going to be a treasure trove of information. And he just talked about the seams in the defence between the tail of the line out and the first defender. Talked about the seam potentially with the 13 and the open side wing, which has now been negated because they all push up high.
Correct.
Talked about the seam behind the front line for the chip kick. He said, work those areas and win the race to the gain line. So you've got to get there, move the ball quicker than the defence can set. No specifics about setting up targets, cogging and things like that. I'm not saying I disagree with that, but I'm saying I don't think you need to do one to get to the other.
Yeah.
And you look at rugby now, his defences are so organised that I think it's come to the real detail of how you can influence and manipulate defenders. And rugby league, I think, are very, very good at it. Coming round the corner, squaring up, making a defender transfer their weight onto the inside foot, and then giving that pass late to someone coming on a hard line. And I think even though you don't think there's a gap there, because someone's weight is transferred to the opposite foot, there's the gap.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get attacking ball carriers to appreciate the effect they can have on defenders, there's space everywhere.
That's true. That makes sense. And obviously as well on top of that is people, not just I'm a decoy runner, but expecting the ball as well. Because I think some people think I'm involved in this play, but it's always going to go out the back, for instance. But if they run a hard line, they commit defenders, or defenders, you know what I mean? So I think some people run those lines when you're saying they're playing on the unders line. I think people, they constantly think it's going to go out the back. They switch off from that play as well.
Do you know what, Ollie? I go mad. I go mad with the boys who come into our programme at 16. They're running this hard line. They're 3 yards in front of the passer. And they're going like that. They're looking the other way. And I'm saying you're missing an opportunity to send a message to a defender that you're carrying. So engage with the man who's passing you the ball. Put your hands in a position where you can receive the ball. Time your run off this guy. Little things like that. But yeah, it frustrates me.
It's hard though, because you got people like yourself, Craig or Gar, that an instinct where you can see it, you can look peripherals and see it, and then other people don't. Like you talk about Nipper a lot. Probably one of the best players come through the college. I bet there wasn't. You can't coach some of the things that he did on the field.
I think our job is to get players at 16 to come into the program and think more about the game at 18.
Yeah.
Obviously, their skills will improve whether he or I are good coaches, because they're exposed to that environment more often. But if we can get them to think about the game, by the time they leave at 18, when they go back to their club, whether it's Tondy, Kenfigale, Porthcawl, Bridgend, Ravens, Pontypridd, Ospreys, if they think about scenarios, think about, why am I doing what I'm doing? What effect is my run having here?
Yeah.
What is the defender doing? Is he sitting down? I think that's the key for me. Can I get players to actually think about the game? Nipper's a good example. I don't think he needs to think too much about the game, because he has something 1 in 1,000 have, or maybe less. And his ability, pound for pound, is world class. If he starts thinking, that's where the problems come in.
But there we go, innit?
Yeah.
There's your answer. I want to ask you guys, both of you, you might have different answers on this one. Who was the person that came through the college that he developed so much from the guy you thought he's not up to much here, but he worked hard and he got something out of rugby by the end of it? Is it anyone that comes to mind?
Jamie Murphy.
Jamie Murphy, yeah?
He was always a talented player, but he was and ill-disciplined. I mean, sometimes he wouldn't turn up on a Saturday morning sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think by the time he left, he was very likeable young man who you could rely upon. Any spring to your mind?
I think you see good players quite early. And it's just then, it's not the capability, it's the willingness to do something. And if they're continually willing to do something, that is much more of an indicator of success and sustained success than capability. We've both seen loads of players that are capable, but just aren't willing to do the basic of turning up every session. Someone like Harry Deeves is a good example. I remember Harry and his dad turning up in the corridor of my office, probably late June, and his dad said, my boy's in, I think he was in a pant, comprehensive.
Yeah.
My boy's in a pant, he's a good rugby player. Now, I don't want to sound judgmental here, but you hear that quite a lot, don't you? So I said, oh, okay. He said, can he stay on in school and play rugby for the college? I said, oh, he'd probably have to study here to, that kind of thing. So no problem. He disappeared. Came back maybe a couple of weeks later. He wants to do the carpentry and play rugby. Brilliant. And I remembered, because obviously he said his boy's a good player. So he turned up in the summer with another friend of his, Joe Davis, another very good rugby player. And you could see within a session, their movement was good, their catch and pass was good, they understood spacings, timings. I thought, these are two good players. But our captain, a young man called Brandon Huntley, was flanker, and Harry was a flanker, so I could see Harry was athletic. So we played him in the centre, and he was the best player on the field in the centre. So towards the end of the season, he said, I wouldn't mind a couple of games flanker. So we actually moved Brandon to the centre and Harry to a flanker. Brandon's now a centre for my State Quins and Harry's a flanker. But at the end of that season, I sat down with Harry and I said, look, you're a good rugby player. You've got an opportunity here. So go away in the summer, eat well, look after yourself. I want you coming back a little bit more conditioned than you were. So he went away, came back pre-season. He probably lost about 3 kilos. I said, what have you done? I think he was working on the roof or something. Typical Harry. And so he'd lost all that window of conditioning, but he's still a talented kid. Anyway, Ospreys sort of took him up to RGC, a last-minute decision. Have we heard about that boy, Harry Deeves? Is he fit and available? I'm sure he is. So he went up there, played outstandingly well, scored a try. they grabbed him, took him into the academy, but his body wasn't conditioned to deal with the rigours of academy training because it's tough, isn't it? He'd had a summer on the roof, so his body broke down. But you can tell quality players. You know, Gaz mentioned them, the Tom Aberfields, Owen Watkins, the Morgan Strongs. They're just good blokes as well as good rugby players, and we got lots coming through now with a similar ilk.
If you're teachable, love, you can go from a 6 to an 8 if you are willing to be taught. You know what I mean? One that springs to mind then though is Tom Aberfield. When you said that, he was thorough, wasn't he?
Very.
How do you, for instance, sometimes it's a curse as well though, because I can speak for my own, and you can over worry on things that's not necessary.
He does overthink. He's difficult to manage at times.
You mentioned this last time, yeah.
He'd be in his pants. Another boy who made great strides forward was a boy called Owen
Sedgbeer.
Yeah. He looks like Jesus.
Long hair.
He's super fit. He was a second row, but he was always too small for a second row. He was about 6'1". And when he came for the interview for college, he came with his mother. His mother said, we went through the whole interview, and at the end, his mother said, "He's a good boy, Mr. Nicholas, but you've got to stop him doing all this shagging."
His mother said that.
Yeah, I said, I'm not sure, but that's my remit. But I'll do my best. I couldn't stop him.
Couldn't stop him.
Great kid.
Where's he from?
From Lisworney, just outside Landwick Major.
Landwick Major.
He's out the reason I said that story, he's out in Australia now, so.
Is he? I bet he's doing okay out there.
He's married.
Oh, is he?
Was married until I said that story.
How, this kind of leads me into the other one. I know you've upset a few people with not upset people, but, you know, people have sent you messages on your best 15 from the college days. I'm going to pull this over to you, Craig. I haven't given you much time to think about it, but if you could go from 1 to 15, who would be your best 15 from the college?
Obviously, I watched the previous podcast with Guy. I wouldn't change too much. It was a golden period, wasn't it? We have got some talent coming through now, and from what I've been told, and I keep an eye on things, there are lots of, you know, good players in the pathway system as well. So I'm really excited about the sort of the rebirth of the college team, if you like. But it's been a tough 5 or 6 years. I mentioned Harry Deeves, you know, Morgan Strong, people like that. They would force their way into my first team. Dylan James has just finished an international rugby tournament. You know, he'd probably feature in the front row. But I'm excited by the next batch of people, and I'm pretty sure, I don't want to put pressure on the kids in the system at the moment, but there's some real good talent coming through.
So you've dodged that bullet pretty good there, Craig, if I might say, hasn't he? He's done all right there. I'm going to ask you then, if you can't give me the full, could you give me a backline?
Backline would be, it would be Tom at 9, Nipper at 10. Probably Owen at 12. Owen Watkin at 12. We've got a young boy, Ben Evans, at 15, who I think is going to be a good player. Probably another young boy, Bridgend Greenall, at 13. It's been really dogged by injury, but I think he's going to be quite good. Wingers then, obviously, who did you pick? Luke and Webber, is it? I couldn't get Webber to pass the ball. I used to say to him, all you got to do is give the ball to the man outside. But I scored. Yeah, but you had an easy option. But I scored. So, I mean, you can't go past those kind of people, you know, good quality players.
It's good to see a lot of those guys now have kicked on, if it's semi-pro or full-time. Is like you said, there was a golden era there. And then you had people on the bench that kicked on full-time as well, you know. So I think Corey Hill was on the bench for you guys maybe, and he's in Japan now and played for Wales. And
I remember us going on tour to America, and we played a first team and a second team in New York City, wasn't it? And the second team's second row partnership was, you probably correct me, it was something like Corey and Screech. And the game straight after, the second row pairing was Lloyd Ashley and Macaulay Cook. You know, it's
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Who was the biggest pests, headers at the college? Are you always...
Derek Treadray.
Any stories?
Oh.
Or
No,
you get-
there's one I can't tell. I can't. No. When he was taking photographs.
I think
No, I can't.
you've got to leave it there.
No, I can't tell that one. But it was, him, Rhys Roberts,
Rhys Roberts, yeah.
used to drive in, one would park his car, and the one would drive into the back of his car. And they were, but the thing about those boys, Bill Carey, or Jamie Murphy, all in the same year group. That boy Sedgbeer. What else? There was a boy called Gareth Capelin, who's a bouncer in the Claude Hotel now in Cardiff. They would not lose. They refused to lose. They were no superstars really, but they just would not. We won the Welsh Cup, won the Welsh Sevens without any superstars. They were just winners. You know? Remember them?
I can honestly say I've been there 16 years now, and 99.9% of the time is completely sort of stress-free in terms of managing them, because they're good young people. Obviously you get peaks and troughs where things are difficult, but they're just good kids. And I can remember going on tour to New Orleans, and we shared a house, or we were in a guy's house, and the guy was a teacher in a predominantly black area of New Orleans, and he said he's moving from that school to a private school, and he said, I'm glad to get out there because it's quite hard to manage them. So I said, well, what kind of things have happened? He said, I must have broke up 80 fights and I've had 2 gun incidents.
Oh, wow.
I sort of like took a sharp intake of breath, and he said, what about you? I said, I can't remember shouting. He said, oh, do you teach in a private school? I said, no, it's
Pub.
yeah. And that sort of puts things into perspective. But I will tell you a quick story. My very first summer there, I hadn't taught before, and it was we went to Truro, didn't we? We used to go to Truro to play these festivals. So we got a long bus journey. We decamp, check our bags in our digs, and Gareth says, meet out here in 20 minutes. So I check my bag in, toilet, come back out 20 minutes later. Gareth's got all the boys in a circle. I am disgusted with this behaviour. This doesn't happen anymore, kind of thing. And I'm just listening there thinking, oh, what's going on? Someone had only gone and rubbed the worst thing you can think of in the wall on a toilet. And and one of the cleaners obviously had seen it and sort of kicked up a fuss. I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I let myself in for here? But like I say, with Gar dealing with people, he knew, did it?
Yeah.
He had a private conversation with that person. That person has had his ups and downs, but without Gareth's intervention, I'm sure he'd have gone off the rails. But my point is, that was the start of something. It didn't get worse. It got a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, and the boys' behaviour is generally fantastic.
We played in Coventry in the Super 16s competition, and we lost in the final. That was the only game that those boys lost, really.
You've got to tell the full story now.
Come on.
I said, end the first day, said we're through the second day. Make sure you're back in your room at 10:30. I'll be waiting downstairs to make sure you come back in. At 10:30, they were all in. They were outstanding. They all went to bed. Neath College came rolling in. They were drunk as skunks. And the next day I said, I'm really proud of you lot. I asked you to be in at 10:30, and you were in at 10:30 in your bed. You behaved like young professionals. We went on to lose in the semi-final, in the final, sorry, to Hartbury. And 10 years later on, I was saying, I remember this happening. And Owen Sedgbeer said, what you didn't realise, is we had one boy looking out And as soon as you went to bed, we all went back out on the piss. We got in at 3 o'clock in the morning. So is that the whole story? Or?
Well, I didn't know that. Obviously, I didn't know till you told me that. And you told me that like 2 months ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
Getting a bunch of rugby boys together, mind, is, that environment you have at college is it's like a little family there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's, you know what I mean, you got a bunch of young, it's probably hard to maintain a bunch of adults, let alone, 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
What I like is when we do bump into each other, not so much me and Gar, because we regularly meet up, but when we bump into some of the old boys, and it invariably we talk about tours, trips, experiences, and there's so many funny times and shared experiences that, again, it goes back to rugby. And we go over to America a lot, and I think rugby has got a unique place as a sport in terms of brotherhood and helping each other out, and it's almost, we have to fight to keep hold of that and not lose that. And going forward, being hosted and immersing yourself in the culture there, I think, is being lost, which is a great shame. Yeah.
It is, unfortunately, it is like, I wouldn't like to be like the youngsters these days, but there are other commitments for youngsters these days in rugby. Like, imagine if you say, I can't play this weekend, I've got to go away with the missus.
Well, how
many boys would fucking rip your head off for that one?
We had a situation in Kevin where one of the boys said, I can't play on the weekend because I'm having a tattoo. And another guy said, I can't play either because I'm doing the tattoo.
Oh, you kid.
Two of our key players.
Oh, mate, that'd be like, you wouldn't hear about that, would you, before?
One boy at Clanharan said, I can't train tonight. I'm putting my Christmas decorations up for my mother.
Don't come Saturday, pal. How, now I'm going to ask you a few questions, Craig, purely like on your career. Obviously, you were in that good era at the Ravens where, like you said, you spoke about it earlier, you won the competition. You had some players there at the Ravens as well. You had Alfie there, your captain, is that right?
Yeah, I think Leighton Samuel, they call it the Leighton Samuel era, don't they?
Yeah.
And he's criticised heavily, probably because he didn't convey his thoughts and his himself very well. But he did a lot of good for Bridgend rugby in terms of increasing their profile, giving them an opportunity to be the best club. So I spent 4 years in Llanelli. I never really established myself and broke through because Steve was there and he was a better player than me. He won 100 caps, I didn't win any, so that's no argument. But Bridgend were quite ambitious. They said, local boy, we got a project, do you want to be part of it? It sounded really good. So I signed, and that was on the back of them signing people like Simon Hill and Hugh Harries, and John Fennell was there, Devs was there. It was exciting. So we went there. That first year, I think did we qualify for the Heineken Cup that first year? I think we did, yeah.
That was the year you beat Caerphilly.
Yeah, but at the end of the first year, I tore my rotator cuff. So I had 6 months out. They signed Simon Mannix, the Kiwi, in the meantime, and Kerrith Rees. But that's the nature of pro rugby. Yeah. Just when you think you've got your feet under the table, bangs, they sign someone else. But that's not about you. It's about an opportunity for you to really challenge yourself. So my second year there was a little bit more frustrating because I only got the second half of the season. But in that second season, I think, we signed like Alfie, Dav, Nathan Budgett, Daniel Jones, Andy Moore, Chris Horseman. It's like we're getting serious now. So the third year I was there then. All those players I mentioned with, Isia Havili, the Mad Tongan, remember him?
Yeah. It was the Martins, the scrum half there.
Sililo Martins, obviously Mama was there.
Mama.
Josh Taumalolo. We were rocking and rolling.
Great
and
team.
We just hit the ground running, played some really good rugby. Alan Lewis came in, and Alan was very much, shift the ball from the breakdown quickly, 10 to 12, he'd play a little bit wider. And what I liked about Alan was he didn't bog me down with sequencing or this is what we do in this situation. He always consulted me.
Yeah.
And he made me feel like I was part of the decision-making process, which as a 10, I think is key.
It's valuable, isn't it?
Yeah. Dennis did as well, in fairness. And I think that gave me that confidence because I've got someone like Salilo or Hugh Harries who are both good players, and I've got Josh or Dav or Alfie outside me, and my God, this is a dream. Catch, give, look for the second touch kind of thing. And we won the league that year and we were crowned champions. So it's a bit of a sad end because it went regional and the squad broke up. So disappointing in the end.
Well, you had a little story to say then. So you went into the office to talk about contracts, I believe.
Yeah, obviously there was talk in the press about it's going to go regional, and they would have these mock-ups of what regions were going to be where and who was in what squad. And I think I went from there was going to be a Neath Bridgend region, and then there was going to be a Bridgend Pontypridd region, and I think 1 week I was picked in the North Wales region. So I think we were all prepped for change. But it got to the point where it was a bit of a meat market, and they called us in one by one down the corridor in the brewery field. You went in with Alan. We were like naughty boys who were on detention. And you'd open the door. Alan would sit down and say, I'm really pleased to say you've got a contract for next year with the Warriors, or I'm awfully sorry you haven't got a contract. And he was as brutal as that, and I did feel for Alan in that scenario, but I was one of the ones who wasn't given a contract. And I remember we'd all be in the line, and whoever would come out the door, you could tell by their face whether they'd got a contract or they hadn't got a contract. I hadn't had a contract, and I came out, and the boys are like, oh my God. I had a good year, really good year that year. I was involved in the A team, but they plumped for Kerry Sweeney and Neil Jenkins. I got no complaints, So Alfie then said, look, it's been a real rotten morning for some players. I'm going to cancel training. Get home, get your glad rags on. We're going down Farmers Arms in Porthcawl. We're going to get pissed together. I for my wife, I had half hour early and said, look, I haven't got a contract. I'm going to be on the dole. Potentially we're going to have to move to France or England, which wouldn't have been a bad thing, but it is,
Relocation.
Yeah. So I went home, got my glad rags on, jumped in a taxi. By the time I'd gone from where I'd lived to the Farmers Arms, I'd had a phone call off Mike Ruddock. So this was coordinated from the unions, obviously. Mike's a great bloke, and he says, I've got a three-year contract. Would you like to play with Junior Tunohu, the Kiwi scrum half, and Percy Montgomery? Yeah. So it's amazing, isn't it? Rugby and pro rugby in particular is such a roller coaster. And we by the time I got to the Farmers, I probably drunk myself. I can only drink 3 or 4 pints, but I probably went for 5 that day. And I was really pleased to get a contract.
Unbelievable.
He is the best manager I've ever come across.
Mike Ruddock. Yeah.
Fantastic.
What happened with him? We'll talk about Mike Ruddock now then. What happened to him with Wales?
I can't say with any certainty, but I think Mike is very good at delegation. And again, going back to my point with Alan would consult with his players, make them feel part of the process. And Mike was very good at that. He'd make you line-out captain, you defence captain, attack captain kind of thing. And there was a perception, I think, from the Welsh boys that this guy isn't doing anything. I mean, one of your greatest resources is your players. These are international players, and getting them to be part of the decision-making process is key, and I think Mike is good at that. I don't know the minutiae of what went on back and forth, but I think that was underneath it all.
Anything on that guy?
No, it was just been gossip to me.
Yeah. Remember that time on Scrum 5? Remember when Alfie was on there?
Yeah,
it was all crazy, wasn't it? I remember a kid watching that going, bloody hell. But he won a lot of Grand Slams, didn't he? What did he win? 2? Was it 2 Grand Slams?
No, he just won the one. Yeah.
One. We had a hell of a team back then, but obviously being coached underneath him at the Dragons, that would have been fun. With Percy Montgomery there.
Yeah, we were branded as sort of like ragtag and bobtail, if you like. Well, that was Mike's mantra, and him and Clive were very, very good. And I remember sitting down with Clive pre-season, and he'd say to me, right, you've got 10 minutes, tell me a little bit about yourself, and what's your philosophy, what's your favourite saying, and again, just good man management. I'm getting to know Clive across the table, and their philosophy with the ball was was quite simple. Get the ball into wide areas, stretch the defence, and when you come back, runners, so we can create that middle field. And then in defence, Clive's mantra was high risk, high reward, get off the line, close the space down. And it seemed to work. And we went into the last game of the season, and it's almost in beggar's belief now, saying we went into the last game of the season playing Leinster in Lansdowne Road, ahead at half-time. And I think if they'd have blown up then, I think we'd have won the league.
Wow.
But I think the Scarlets won against Ulster maybe at Stradey Park, and they won the league, and we actually finished third. I may have got the detail wrong, but we were right in the fight. Yeah.
What a team, though. I know the Dragons are not where they were back then, but like you wouldn't think about that now, would you? The team, the Dragons, being up that high and performing the way they were in.
No, I mean, quite a few players went on to play British Lions, Michael Owen and Gareth Cooper, and obviously Percy Montgomery we talk about. But
how the heck did they how did they get Percy Montgomery of all players?
I think Tony Brown was behind a lot of that, and I don't know Tony. I can't say know him well, but I know, having spent time as a player and then latterly as a coach in Newport, they think really highly of him. And a lot of the players of that era almost worship him because he seems like the kind of guy who just wants to be in the background. And I think his mindset was, the community's been really good for me in terms of employment and a living, and I want to give back to the community.
It was BJ as well, wasn't it?
BJ's a legend, yeah.
BJ.
Brian Jones.
He spent a lot of time in South Africa and knew all the players that Gary Teichmann came across because of him. I think Percy did as well. But he's a really nice fella.
Yeah, BJ is. He's obviously very, very old now, but if he sees you, he'll tell you he's one of the first players to be on a team that beat Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. Again, that's Newport.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. Obviously, with you guys as well, you went over from the college and coached at the Ravens together, didn't you, at one stage? How was that?
It was really, really, really tough. They'd gone down the year before and they'd sacked all their coaches. And there were some people there who didn't deserve to be sacked. I won't mention names, but I think they were doing a good job. They sacked them on block because they'd gone down. All the contracts were negated. So we went into talks. We'd sit down one to one with players, and almost to a man they left. We had a squad of about 6. And there's some people who were saved that club. Matthew Davis, the captain.
Matthew Davis, good guy.
He was immense. People like Tom Hancock came and played there. Did well. Gareth David. I'm trying to think of the other ones. The one who, there are 2 people who saved us. One was Kyle Maiden, who came in, revolutionised our lineouts, and took all the kickoffs, and he was just a basic second, did the basics really well. The other one was Nipper.
Yeah.
We had a meeting with the Ospreys, and they said, "What do you need to stay up?" We were on the verge of going down again, and then I said, "We need a goal kicker and an outside half." I said, "You've got people in mind?" I said, "Yeah, one boy called Matthew Morgan." We brought him in, and the crowd, the regulars were superb. All the way through it, weren't they? There was a group of people who were absolutely outstanding. Great to have known. And they said, "Who's this Matthew Morgan guy?" I said, "You have to trust me." I said, "We do trust you, but it's late in the day. We need to start winning. Just trust me." So I go up in the crow's nest. He kicks off. About 5 minutes into the game, there's a kick. kick. So everyone's milling round, and the person who takes the third kick is Matthew Morgan, and this is made for him. Bap, 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 and scored in the corner. Went back, put the ball down on the touchline, kicked the conversion. Well, I'm good choice. There's another story there. It's an offshoot of it. Richard Webster was a great, lovely bloke. He's
Hard bugger, isn't he?
Oh yeah. Well, let's prove it. We're playing Carmarthen Athletic, was it? And Grant Epton was getting a shellacking off these three boys who had obviously been drinking all day. They're in Hawaiian gear, and one of them's got sunglasses on. And they're on to Grant Epton all the time. Yak. And Richard, remember up in the Crows, that's when Richard Webster offered his help. He said, he just breaks. He says, "Oi, you, sunglasses man, shut the F up, or I'll come down there and sort you out." And these three boys looked up, and sunglasses man is in the middle. These three boys looked up, and they went, "Don't know who he is." That's Richard Webster. And the two boys without sunglasses moved away and left this boy with sunglasses. He was trembling.
Somebody you don't want to mess with.
No.
Definitely.
Good values, man.
Yeah.
Really good values.
And obviously you were there as well with Gar at the Ravens. If you look at the Ravens team, it's obviously you've got a lot of, close to your heart, both of you. Where they're at right now, I don't know where they're sitting in the Prem League.
Yeah, I think they're round about just below mid-table. But what I will say is there's an awful lot of work going on underneath the sort of pyramid, if you like. Obviously, Bridgend Ravens is a shop window, but I think Bridgend have been too reactive, and I think they're being proactive now. Still a long way to go, but there are good people, particularly Tony Williams, the secretary, who I think is a Trojan, and he's doing a lot of work with Paul Watkin in the pathway, and Paul Watkin is one of the best blokes I've come across in rugby. Very big ears, which is his downfall, but we can't praise him too much, can we?
Nothing wrong with big ears.
But he is just it does exactly what it says on the tin. He's of the age, I think, where he just wants a good Bridgend.
Yeah.
And he's doing some fantastic work, driving up and down the motorway, trying to engage with people. You can't please everybody all the time, but I can guarantee you he is working his socks off for the betterment of the kids coming through. We need to provide more often, more quality, and for there to be a clear pathway. And if we can engage with the local clubs who are the lifeblood, I think there's exciting times ahead, because there is talent in rugby. Yeah. And another good guy, Chuck Norris, who's doing good work with the EPP.
Nice.
And Lewis Crabb, who's doing excellent work in the Dewar Shield. There's talent coming through. It is super exciting, and we are then hopefully going to provide the next block, 16 to 18, along with the schools. But obviously we can provide that, integrated timetable that allows analysis, strength and conditioning, recovery. Great. Obviously in a really intense playing environment, so that by the time they come 18, they're ready for the next step, and Jen will pick up on that, hopefully.
Exciting times, boys. Exciting times. Well, it is that time, fellas, where I ask the last question as always. Gal, go with you first, mate. What are you grateful for?
Having coached with some people like Craig and Paul Watkin, and being in that time where you could actually do things. You could take boys on tour. You could say slightly politically incorrect things that weren't there to cause harm. But in a rugby environment, it's what people, the language people use. I'm just grateful that I worked in Bridgend College with people like this man, Paul Watkin, Paul Adams, at a time when it was enjoyable.
I like that a lot. Good stuff. Craig?
just to ride on the back of what Gar said, education and coaching is education, isn't it? It is changing, and I don't think it's changing for the better. There are elements that are obviously still good, but I just think I do get a little bit, I don't know, frustrated or sad that failure is seen as something that isn't acceptable when it's a valuable part of progress and progression.
Life.
And I think...
He's not answering the question. He's not answering the question.
I think what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for... I think I've always been able to watch, observe, and take the best bits of people. I can remember being a kid in Kenfigale, starting off my senior journey, and boys like Brendan Roach is a good...
Great guy.
Yeah, was a role model, kept himself fit. Matthew Wintler, I mentioned earlier. And then I'd go to Llanelli and it'd be Ian Evans or Rupert Moon or Rob McBride. And I've always been able to look at the good rather than focus on the bad. And I think I'm grateful for that ability to appreciate what I've got rather than what I haven't got. And I think what Gar said, spending time with good people, that's not luck. I choose to spend time with good people. And we had a blast the 10, 12 years we were there together. And there's a million and one stories we haven't told today, which we probably couldn't tell. But yeah, and I still love rugby for what it's given me.
I love that, boys. Well, I love both of you, your story, you know, what you're grateful for, because there's a lot of gems there. I want to say I'm grateful for both of you fellas coming in. First of all, I'm grateful for Head of the Game, because they give us some good coffee and we're off grid. Because the last time I caught with Gar, I went to Gar's house and he gave me a coffee, and I'm sure it was bird shit in the coffee because it tasted terrible. But no, I'm very grateful for you two coming in today, and like, you've planted the seed into so many people's lives that have kicked on, have great careers, and you're still doing great things around the area. And for instance, the work of getting to know Gar even more just from those occasions at rugby at college to now is built a great bond with him, and what are you doing at Llanarran. And with yourself, Craig, I was that little kid once watching you at the brewery field, mate. So I just want to say thank you so much for that.
Thanks all.
So thank you, fellas.
Don't just talk it, walk it.